Welcome to the Mentor Studio, where today's thought leaders and leading entrepreneurs inspire and bring real-world ideas that help you take your career to levels you've only dreamed of. Now buckle in. Here's your host, Michael Silvers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Silvers. I'm so excited today. This is the Mentor Studio, mentorstudio.com. That's all you need to know. Have fun. Go there. Listen to the shows. I've done really fun shows they're always fun, right? Everybody's fun. We just had, we had Michael Nitti, Tony Robbins' coach. We had, I don't even remember. There's been so many. I know Scott and Nancy, their relationship coaches, they've done a lot of retreats internationally, and they were just brilliant. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun. We always have fun, and we continue to have fun. And everybody, how we do this. I always let the guests introduce themselves. We don't do the big buildup, even though all the years of stages, that's what I'm used to. So we let them all do what we call the earn the right. They get a minute or less of why would we even listen to them? I think that's important. I mean, it's, to be able to tell your story in a short period of time that attract people. I think that's a great learning lesson. Maybe we'll do a podcast one day just on that, on a whole show on earning the right and how do you do that. But without any further ado, my next guest is amazing when it comes to relationships, building a stronger, when you build relationships in your life, everything works because business is relationships, marriage, your children, everything is about relationships. And if you don't have a good mentor in that, or you're finding places that you can't quite solidify that, that's critically important. So without any further ado, from the great country of Canada, let's give a big round of applause for Jeeva Sam. Hi, Jeeva, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, Michael. Good to be with you today.
Oh, it's awesome to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll just jump right in.
Okay, so my wife, Slojana, and I, we've been married for 37 years, and I spent 35 years as a pastor in a congregational setting. And so we basically combined our marriage experience and my pastoral expertise and came up with the process of mentorship. And so we basically take married couples who are at the point of giving up on their marriage, and we mentor them from the brink of breakdown to breakthrough in as little as 10 weeks, and we guarantee the results.
I love it. That was quick. That's the way to do it. And it's about those results because we get so driven by, sometimes we get too much into our actions and it's like, okay, I've got to do all these actions, but there is that, we forget that the results are important. Now, you should enjoy the whole way and you should enjoy the process. But if the result is a better relationship, better working relationship, better relationship with your kids, what is it? First of all, I think what is it that one is looking for? And secondly, how can you be of service for the other person? What do you think of that? Being of service to the other person when it comes to relationships.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of the reasons why people come to us with presenting symptoms is they simply get focused on themselves. So you get married for what you can get out of it, for what your spouse can give you, how they can meet your need. And that's why it's kind of an interesting paradox because, opposites attract. We hear that all the time. But sometimes you attract for the wrong reasons. And one of those wrong reasons is that you have certain gaps in your life, vacuum, if you will, and you are drawn to this person who looks like they can fill that gap. They can come and take over that vacuum. So for a while in the courtship period, that's actually very exciting because oh my God, we are meant for each other. We complement each other. All those good things, which is good. But then when you start, getting married and you start doing life together, all of a sudden, one person finds that the other person just sucking, their life out of them, their energy out of them. And so at that point, that does not become a good thing. And so if you start out with the attitude that, hey, we're here to serve each other. We're here to enjoy a life together, and I'm going to put your needs ahead of mine, and you put my needs ahead of you. Now we're at the way that we meet each other's needs. It's going to be a happy relationship for both of us. Whereas if one person always after well, I need this, I need that, and you're not willing to meet the other person's need, then you're really building a deficit in the other person's bank account that you have with them. And sometimes that bank account gets way too low. It's get overdrawn to the point where you cannot even bring it back up to zero. And that's when people tend to come to us.
Yeah, that, it's great that they have a place to go to, and that's, it's the communication that also, it's the relationship within the communication. And even though, we know how little is verbal, because really it's everything else that we are, it makes a big difference still how we communicate and how much we have in our bank and how much we're bringing to it and how much we're being of service when we start. I think that's critical. Yeah. So when you started down this road, there's tendency of a great book that really launches us forward, or a podcast that keeps you going. What keeps you going every day, or what even started you down this path? Great book, something you read, whatever that was.
Okay. Well, the greatest book that I've ever read and keep on reading is the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really my source book. However, we got into this really from a need that was presented to us. And so I don't know if you remember this, but a number of years ago, maybe about 10 years ago or more, there was a movie called Fireproof, that gained a lot of publicity.
Yep.
And in the movie Fireproof, there was something called the 40-day love dare. And even though the movie script only had 4 days worth of it, people were asking for the book. And so the producers had to come up with the book. And so, so the largest Canadian, Christian television network wanted to, emphasize that, but they wanted to do it in a slightly unorthodox way, where to encourage the audience to go along with it and do it every day. They recruited 3 couples, and we were one of them.
Oh,
And
wow.
they told us to put out a vlog, each and every day about that day's challenge, that day's dare, and how we did it and how we found it and so on. So when we did that, we started getting some, correspondence from married couples who watched us, or we would be out somewhere shopping or in a church setting or whatever, and somebody would come to you and say, "Hey, weren't you the couple?" And so people started asking us for help, and my wife Slodina was actually very inclined to do something, but I said, "Honey, I've been pastoring for over 25 years, and if we start getting involved with married couples, they'll suck the life out of us. Trust me, we don't want to go there." So I kind of brushed it off. And then a few years down the road, I'm starting to mentor some entrepreneurs, kind of in the spiritual realm, to provide them with some prophetic input and that kind of stuff, helping them to hear God's voice and so on, and teaching them biblical principles. And they're mostly guys, they're flourishing in their businesses, but all of a sudden they hit a ceiling. And it's like I don't understand, because they're doing everything right. And then I got the revelation, because I felt one day this voice inside of me, the voice of God saying, ask them about their marriage.
Right.
And when I asked them,
Right.
it was the common denominator that was actually getting them to tank, or at least not advance beyond a circle. It's like they hit a ceiling. And so at that point, it's like, okay, I guess we got to do something about the marriage. And then in a very short span, Michael, maybe like about 4 weeks, I had 6 different people call us and say, "Hey, our marriages are in trouble, and we remember you guys did something with that television station a few years ago. Would you be able to help us?" And so at that point, I turned to Florian and said, "You win. We have to do something about it." And so that's really how we got started with it, and it's really amazing, because we really didn't have the foggiest idea of what we would do. And so we're flying from Toronto to Los Angeles, 5.5 hour flight one day, to come to Azusa now, a few years back.
Uh-huh.
And during that flight, all of a sudden, I just get this, nudge in my spirit: pull out your iPad and start writing. And so I just start typing, and by the time, even before we landed, we pretty well had the outline of our process. So it just kind of flowed, and then of course, we had to test it and validate it. And sure enough, as soon as we put out a call on Facebook, a very organic post, a couple raised their hands, worked with them, they got the breakthrough, and so we just kept on going since then.
I love it. I love it. That's one of those it's meant to be. It's a bigger picture. It's it's when the Spirit moves through you, right? Yeah. And you realize that it's not about me anymore. It's truly about, I'm here as a vessel to be of service on this planet. And how does that show up, or how do I show up? I think that's a really critical piece. I know I'm taking it out of the religious realm for a minute, but just to be a mentor, the best mentors I know really talk about the Spirit really moves with me how can I be of service to a larger population? Because my gifts were not given to me just for myself,
Hmm.
you know.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the great thing that you two are doing is you're truly bringing that you're bringing love, mercy, forgiveness, faith, and you're helping people down a path that sometimes they're stuck, they hit a roadblock, and I think that's really huge. Sometimes audiences listen to these calls and they're doing other things, they're driving, they're who knows what they're doing, they're vacuuming. But what are three takeaways that you could give our audience right now where when they listen to this, they could say, I can use that right now if they decided to never listen to a podcast again, which we know you'll be on all the time? What are three things that you could teach people right now that they could use immediately?
Okay. Well, the first thing is really to always have hope. Like, no matter how bad things look like right now, that is not your ultimate destiny. Like, so don't get so wrapped up in all the troubles that you're going through, especially in relationships. I personally found over the years that people tend to give up on their marriages way too soon. And so always have hope that there is a way that you can turn things around. And the second thing that I would say to people is reach out and ask for help, because there's somebody out there, who will be willing to help you. You just have to humble yourself and ask for that help. And the third thing that I would tell people is, have the take the long view, have an eternal perspective. So, for example, a couple comes to us, they're in their mid-30s and they're ready to call it quits. And so we tell them, listen, guys, let's just look at your average life expectancy. Let's say you're going to live up to 75. Let's say that's your that's your age. You still got 40 years of married life together. What if you took 2 years right now? And it never takes that long. But what if you took 2 years of your life right now and really got things back on track in your marriage? You still got 38 good years of marriage more likely to be together. So that's what I mean by the eternal perspective, the long view. And Michael, when you put those three things together, you're always going to have a breakthrough.
Hope, help, and the long view. I love it. I love it. What's great about what you just said is there's a tendency if we complicate everything, right? Or we don't have, because what are the biggest distractions and obstacles we always see in our life is time and money.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's business relation. It's always right. Even going to church, or temple or wherever you go, you're too busy.
Yeah.
There's too busy. And I think by what you just did, you took some of that out of there. Because it's not about you have to do this 10 hours a day. I mean, if it's important to you, it should be part of your soul but that's okay. That takes time to build. And the other thing too that I sometimes find a block is audience, I want you to know. Now, we don't talk about religion on the show. Not that we do or we don't actually. I don't shy away from it because I think that within the personal development community, especially, there was a big backlash back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? And everybody stopped talking about it. And it's who we are. It's part. So I used to go on stages, Jeeva, and I would say, there was one time I was literally 5 minutes late. I was never late. And I just said to the audience, I said, I am so sorry. I went to mass this morning. I wanted to ground and go to a morning mass. And there was LA traffic. I'm from here and I'd never seen it. And there was one person that says, oh, you shouldn't mention like that. And the rest of the audience said, thank you. Why have we moved away from that? Why are we fearful? And what I love about what you're doing is you're bringing this to the masses. You're bringing this to whatever religious background I have, wherever I come from, whatever community, whether race, creed, and color, doesn't matter. We all have that side in ourselves that's hurting and needs that better relationship. And I think I'm actually so glad we're doing this today. I actually was at mass this morning, and the homily was about this country right now needs community, needs to be brought together no matter where you come from, what religion you are, we're all God's people. And then I know the atheists will say, well, I don't believe in God. Okay, well, we're all spiritual, whatever it is. But we're all here, and we need to work together and be together. And that's what what your wife and you are doing, I think, brings us together.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you have to recognize the way that we are created. And this is, I've learned this from the Christian context, but I believe true of other faiths as well, is that we are spirit beings with a soul in a body. And so, if you just take care of stuff on the external side of things, like you learn a good pattern that you can use to resolve conflict and so on, that'll work for a while. But you have to take care of your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And a lot of good counseling therapy will help you do that. But there's still a deeper part of you, which is the spirit being, and that's where you have to learn to forgive people, where you have to deal with your past hurts and traumas and so on. And so we always talk about the 3 R's of restoration for a marriage, which is repentance, reconciliation, and resolution. So if you just start with resolution and ignore the other 2, you will have success for a while, but it will, eventually something else will pop up, usually from the soul realm, some pent up feelings, or some old beliefs in your mind will come out and sabotage it. And so you're much better off to start off, with the repentance area in the spirit realm. So that's where we start couples up. We start them off with repentance, the spirit realm, move them to reconciliation, teach them how to work with their feelings, emotions, determination, and so on. And then finally, we get them to resolution. And quite often we find that by the time you take care of the spirit realm and the soul realm, the body takes care of itself.
Right.
So a couple comes to us, they don't want to even touch each other. Obviously they haven't been together physically, intimately for quite some time. Most of the time when they come to us, and we don't have to teach them how to get physically intimate again. Once we start to take care of all the deep hurts in the spirit realm and bring them to reconciliation, then the spiritual, the physical just opens up.
Yeah, that's okay. That's wonderful. Like, I don't want to plus that at all. So it's, it is true. And I think the brilliance of what you're doing, and really thank you so much, is you are helping them heal. You are helping them, because you're right, that forgiveness, being able to forgive, it really, whatever term you want to use, it cleanses your soul. It opens up your being. It helps your cells, because we know, right, just from a biochemistry background, when you hold on to something, right, people wonder why the rates of heart attacks and cancers, and why is that all up? And you work with people, when they let that go, blood pressure goes down, the body reacts in a different way. You're healing them physically, mentally, their soul. It's huge. And I appreciate what you two are doing. I'm sure you've seen that in your own practice.
Oh, absolutely. And the fancy term is, psychosomatic. Mm-hmm. And when you break it down, it's suhe, it's the soul, then soma is the body. And so there's this soul body connection. And I would add, the new mind, the pnu mind there, the spirit as well. And you cannot ignore that connection. But when you realize the significance of that connection, and you work, in all 3, in the proper order, by the way, spirit, soul, and then body, then we've seen tremendous transformations. People come, some of them have been married for just a year. We've had one couple just over a year. Another couple came to us married for well over 40 years. But it doesn't matter where they are. Once they begin to realize the significance of taking care of those deep, hurts, a lot of them unfortunately go back to childhood, and or people along the way that hurt them, authority figures and so on. But once and some people don't want to go there. Everybody's a little scared of going there. But when you're so desperate, for a breakthrough, that you'll go wherever you need to go. It's like, you go to if you're probably, a brain tumor or something, and you go to a brain surgeon, the surgeon says, this is what I'm going to do. This is what you need to do. Yes, sir. Okay. And here, cut me a check for $100,000. Like, nobody asks any questions, because you need it so badly, and then you do it. And so when people take this connection that seriously, And by the way, it doesn't cost 100 grand for our process. But when you do that, now you are going to have the breakthrough and you're going to come out with something that's going to last for the rest of your life, really, as long as you keep on applying it.
That's right. That's fun. And it's that application piece and it's that continuing piece. And I'm sure you even have clients come back to you, like for a checkup or a refresher, or because sometimes you just need to, are we heading the right direction? Have we let go of the things we need to do?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things we find too is, like in the beginning, we were just doing like a 3 month mentorship. And then we realized that some of the couples, when we followed up with them, needed a little bit more of hand holding, accountability, which, by the way, Michael, I find is one of the keys to the success that we are able to create for people, is because we keep them really accountable to us. We teach them some daily habits, and you have to do them 63 days in a row, which is 3 21-day cycles. And so those neural pathways that now start to form in your brain get really deep. And if you don't practice some of those daily disciplines, then you feel like something is missing in your life. And so then we instituted a monthly follow-up with people. So we added 3 months to that. So most of the couples that come to us now, we work with them for 6 months, 3 months on a weekly basis, the next 3 months on a monthly basis. And then we offer them a continuity process. So they can continue to work with us for another year, if they choose to, or however long. Because that ongoing accountability, which is really, if you think about it, it actually makes total sense. Because anything in life that we want to be good at, that we want to succeed in, we realize now we cannot do that on our own. We need mentorship. And here's marriage, which really is one of the most long-term enterprises that you'll ever undertake in your life. Why do we think that we can get through that successfully without mentors? So when we have somebody that we're accountable to, it definitely increases the chances of us succeeding. And not just us, Michael. Like the big thing we're really concerned about is the next generation. Because we find children repeating the mistakes of their parents, and some of the hurts that the parents have had, when they're not dealt with, they have serious repercussions for the life of the children down, like number of generations. And so that's why, like, we call it marriage mentorship rather than just coaching or counseling.
Yep. Oh, my phone just turned on. Stop that. Okay. And it's not about right. It's not about us. I look at everything that I'm doing and creating. It's that legacy piece. It's for that future generation, and it's for the grandkids, right? Stop. That's so funny. Stop talking. Siri, right? Siri activated. Now she's listening. But it is the legacy. The reason, part of the reason for the Mentor Studio is the legacy, is the future generations, is how do we create the healing. And by the way, everybody out there, Jeeva and his wife, are part of the Mentor Studio. They'll be mentors with us. I think their mission and what they're creating is huge. And why the minute I met you two, literally I said, join us, we'll join you. And they did, and we did. And I'm very honored that you're part of this. Because I think we make change only by doing it together, and we create that long-term legacy, and we create the habit within ourselves that keeps going. So I want to thank you for being on the call today. Now my team will they'll do all what they do, and of course they go out there and spider and find out how to find you. But what's the easiest way for the audience? Now remember, they're driving their car, and they're gonna read the show notes later. But what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
Okay. So our website is one of the easiest to remember because our last name is Sam. So it's Jeeva and Sam. And so our website, and we're from Canada. So thesams.ca. So if you can remember the Sams and .ca, then you can go there, find details about what we do. And there's an application form, if you'd like to connect with us and get some mentorship. There's also a free resource that we have to download right on the front page. It says download now, and it's called Your Marriage Can Survive Any Crisis. And we started putting this resource out when COVID hit and started to affect marriages. And so it's based on the thesis that a crisis does not produce cracks in a marriage. A crisis simply exposes the cracks that are already there. And so it's got a little bit of analysis, but a lot of practical, applicable steps in there that if you follow them, obviously if you get help, it'll be better. But even if you just started practicing some of them, then you will notice a change in your marriage.
Wow. Wow. Love it. Thank you for doing that. Well, thank you for being on the call today. Any last things you want to tell our audience before I do the formal sign off?
Well, marriage doesn't have to be complicated. Even though relationships can be complex, they're not complicated. It is simply applying a few simple principles and doing over and over again. One of the things we tell couples is, like you can get married simply by saying, I do once. But if you want to keep your marriage going, you have to keep on saying, I will make this work. I will find a way. I will love you, even when you don't seem so lovable. And so it's one set of I do's and then a whole lot of I wills. You keep doing that, you'll do fine.
Oh, thank you. It's been a moving call. I really appreciate it. For those of you, tuning into this, take the information, reach out to them, get to know them. I think that's how we build those relationships. Jeeva, obviously, and his wife will also be part of future Mentor Studio calls. And we're very excited to have you on the team. I wanted to thank everybody for being part of this. Our mission, your fan is really loud again, by the way. Our mission is to bring this out to communities around the world that can't afford it or can't get mentoring. We have a lot to do in 2021 to start the traveling in 2022. I wanted to thank everybody for being on the call. TheMentorStudio.com. Jeeva, can you just mute yourself just for a second? We got a big background on your fan. Awesome. It's quieter now. It's quieter. It went better. Okay. But TheMentorStudio.com. Join us. Be part of the team. We're going to take this worldwide. I wanted to let everybody know that the next podcast is one of my mentors, Mr. Jim Britt. Jim was Jim Rohn's partner, and he trained a gentleman named Tony Robbins. So we're very honored to have him on. He'll be the next podcast you'll be listening to, and he's also part of the team at the Mentor Studio and one of the mentors, and also wants to help us take this to worldwide audiences. He actually is going to introduce me to a gentleman who's helped 200 villages in South Africa become self-sustainable. That made my whole day, right? It's part of the mission and the experience we're all bringing together. Help your relationships, build your relationships. You can unmute yourself, by the way. Help your relationships, build your relationships. Jeeva, for myself, the Mentor Studio, and everything we do, want to thank you so much for being on.
You're very welcome, Michael. It's my pleasure and privilege to be able to contribute to the mission of the Mentor Studio.
Fantastic. Thank you. Whether you have morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're listening to this, have a great day. Mentor somebody else today. Be of service. Donate your time. We have a tendency, it's easy to give money, but it's not. I understand, but donate your time. Really be there for people and just make a difference in their world. So I want to thank you all for the Mentor Studio. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
We're honored that you invested time with us today at the Mentor Studio. Now, don't be greedy. Share this knowledge bomb with all your dope peeps on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Actually, we'll even pay you to do it. To get the deets, please check out thementorstudio.com.